you.
Welcome everybody to Angry Me Production. What the hell episode? And this is gonna be your extra of the week, and probably the only Friday flirty one that we're gonna. It's not gonna be on Friday. It's gonna be on today on Thursday. And yeah, we're recording it. Personal stuff happens with all my crew. I'm the only one that's going to be your avid person that's constantly on this. But we have a friend of the podcast, Eric Tansey. He has a book that's coming out.
Yeah, it is Pig Latin. A seriously funny true story. By the way, I like that you said it's Friday because like now I feel like it's Friday. So like let's just go with that. Like It's Friday, dude. Let's go.
Yeah. We have a lot of stuff on that book that it is deep on. I was just surprised at a lot of stuff that you put in there. I was like, oh wow, that's what cops go through. Oh wow. No. Oh wow. I mean, I had the funny story. I did watch like before we did this yesterday, I watched it's called the Blurry Creature podcast, and there was a cop on there, and he literally said that he had taken it was supposedly a domestic violence, but it wasn't domestic violence, and apparently she needed an exorcism. I mean, like legitimately an exorcism. So you get into the crazy stuff when you deal with the public. But go about how your book was done, because you did a co-author with Nick Palmisano, and yeah, there's certain thing that's going flirting in there, but he just polished the stuff, right?
Well, so Nick Palmisano, what an amazing guy Nick is. Like, man, it sounds weird, but like Nick is such a selfless servant to the community. Like, I don't have to go all into it, but like Nick is honest to God, and I will stand by this no matter what. Cut it up into a reel, whatever. Nick Palmisano is one of the best human beings I've ever met. Like, I've met two people in the industry that I would 100% trust with my wife and children. And that's Mike the cop and Nick Palmisano. Like, those are the two guys that I've ever worked with that are like truly, I mean, just really good salt of the earth, good morals. They practice what they preach, and they're the same person that they are in real life as you would see them on social media. Nick's not really on social media very much. Like Nick is like a very behind the scenes guy, makes a lot of the commercials for like American Legion or like Army Navy football. And I don't know, he's any veteran company that has a commercial, he's probably made it that you've seen on TV. That's just kind of like his forte. So he's a behind the camera guy. He's not really so much of an in front of the camera guy, but Nick is a co-author. He's not a ghost author. And being that he was a New York Times bestseller, from what he did with Stars and Stripes, whether, you know, like how you feel about Tim Kennedy, whatever, those aren't Nick's stories. Nick didn't write those stories. And I think that's the misconception about co-authors. It's like ghostwriters. Like a co-author essentially is, he gives the book rhythm. He takes your story and then makes it not sound like a report, but more like a book. And so it's really up to you to be the truth teller and the storyteller. And, you know, Nick's job's not to fact check me or fact check my stories. It's literally structure, grammar, punctuation. And, you know, and I think he did a phenomenal job with my book. The difference between my book, though, and the book I think everybody's referring to here, Scar Stripe, is that there's police reports to back up my stories. So it'd be really hard to stretch the truth in a book where somebody could, you know, if they did enough work, they could go and just pull the actual report. So
yeah, and a lot of this, you were told by your other officers that you need to make another book because you left stuff out.
Yeah. So, you know, now that we have the hard copy in hand, you know, I gave it to the other characters in the book. And, you know, one of the things a lot of these stories happened eight years ago or whatever, 7, 8 years ago. And, you know, people and incidents perceive things differently, and everybody has a different side of the story to tell. It's their story. Like, and so I was real nervous that the other players would read the book and would be like, well, that's not how that happened. That's not how I perceived it. And sure, that could be true. But I got the opposite. So when the characters in the book read my book, they were like, dude, you left out the best part, or you left out when this happened, or you didn't even tell about this. And like, bro, where is this story? And why didn't you tell that story? And, you know, and I was like, oh my gosh, you know, and actually just went on. One of them actually has a podcast called Santana True Crime. And I was on LB Ellsworth's On Being a Police Officer podcast, and she had him on too. It's kind of a surprise deal there. And so, cause he's in the book quite a bit as my training officer. And now I don't know that I speak very highly of him because he was my training officer. So he wasn't my friend. You know what I mean? He was my FTO, and he was very hard on me. He was very difficult for me. And I learned a lot from him. But, you know, like some people in the book are going to be like, wow, that's a great training officer. And some people are going to read the book and be like, damn, his training officer's a dick, you know? So it's like, I'm nervous because she had him on with me, and I'm like, oh no, you know, is this going to be his moment to, you know, get back at me for some of the things that I said? And he said, you know, to her that this was just such an honest book. And he was like, you know, that when he read it, you know, he actually feels bad in some instances of the book where he's like, I didn't really know that Eric was going through that at the time. And I probably would have handled this different. But, you know, like, he didn't deny that any of it happened. And I wrote the book in that way because I wanted civilians mainly to realize like what it's really like to be a cop, not to like fluff the job up, not to blow smoke up your ass, but to like give you the totality, the amazing parts, the really shitty parts, and the hilarious moments. But like, you know, some of the reviews I've gotten from the ARC readers, which are like advanced reader copies is what they call those. And they're like professional reviewers. And that's a whole nother podcast to talk about reviewers. But, you know, a lot of them are mentioned, like bring up in the reviews, like how dark the book is. And they're like, it's like, is this guy getting counseling? Like I've had that one. It's like, is this guy getting counseling? Because like, I know he's laughing about some of these situations, but like, that's really fucking dark, you know? And not very funny.
I have coworkers, they try to go dark with me, and then I tell them my life story. They're like, oh, I opened that door, didn't I?
You know, it's funny because it's like, for me, you know, this is what cops go, like there are cops that are, you know, I was only a street cop for 6 years. You know, like my whole law enforcement journey was like 8 years, like, but that's like going through the hiring process and then like having my law enforcement certification afterwards and being with the Youngsville Dive and Rescue and being, you know, stuff like that. But like just as a beat cop, street cop, 6 years. And, you know, there are cops that are out there for 30 years, bro, that have 20 years of my stories. And so, you know, it is crazy the trauma a first responder will see. I don't know what the real stats are, but I've heard like, you could Google it. You're a fact checker, podcast guy. You should know how to do it. But like, it's something like a person will experience like 40 traumatic incidents in their whole lifetime.
Oh yeah.
But a first responder will have like 40 in a week.
Yeah. And we were talking about this before we got onto the podcast, was just talking to getting pulled over. You know, you run a stop light, and if you're rude up that stoplight to the cop, then you're going to have a bad day. But you don't realize that cop either A, started up the shift, saw you that you pulled a stop, you ran a stop sign, and then he pulls you over, and that was his beginning of his day. And his day was actually, for a cop, that's actually pretty good. Or you could be at probably like the mid of his shift. You run the stop light. He's very agitated. He's doesn't want to be, you look at his body language. He doesn't want to be there. He could have just got off to where he had to pull a kid from a family that was beating the crap out of him.
Right.
You don't know that story at that point in time. And they
all have one. They all have a story too. Like, that's what's crazy. It's like every cop has a reason for what they're doing. And like, perfect example, there's this cop, and he used to sit on 440 all the time, and he would just rip cars over constantly. It's like all he did. He was like the worst street cop ever, and I hated him. Just really didn't like him. I'm like, why is this guy is such an asshole? Like, this is why people hate cops. And I was talking at one of our police parties about him, and I was like making jokes. And one of the older guys pulled me aside and he was like, one, he doesn't give a fuck what you think about him. But two, do you know why he acts that way? I was like, why? And he was like, because, you know, on Christmas Eve, a nurse was coming into work on Christmas Eve and there was a wrong way driver on 40 or whatever street it was, and he hit it head on and killed her. And that dude has worked that strip of 440 the rest of his career.
Yeah. I mean, even talking with a friend of mine that he's into like communist stuff, which it boggles me to this day. But he was like, you get pulled over and you act like the cops like your best friend. I was like, one, I don't want to get shot. Two, I carry. And I placate to the cop because I don't know how bad of a day he's been through. You know, just even going through. I worked as a correctional officer. My day could go out great, but at the end of the day, someone could do something, and it's happened time and time again that I have to deal with like a burnt body.
Yeah,
you never know. And we got pulled over one time, and he's like, "Oh man, it's the cops." I was like, "Put your hands on the dashboard."
it's pretty easy.
Why should I do? I'll do it, but I was like, one, I'm carrying. I don't make any sudden movements and let me do all the talking. You shut the hell up. He's like sweating, nervous. And I was like, hey, how's it going? He's like, well, you know what? I pull your own. It was like, I obviously don't know what was going on. And it was just, you know, my license plate being up on the dashboard.
Oh,
He's in the front here in Texas. And I was like, hey, okay, are you going to write me a ticket or anything like that? Well, I got to check you guys' stuff. I was like, okay, would you like me to step out of the car and leave the firearm that I have? Because I handed him my concealed carry license too, or license to carry. And he's like, yeah, if you could. And we just had a rapport after that. And when we got in the car and left, he's like, I've never had a police officer treat me like he was your best friend after the end of the thing. I was like, yeah, because he's human.
Yeah.
He probably had a bad day and he saw that and he's like, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to have to do this. Someone already yelled at me for not doing this. So it's
I like the I like how he started off with like, do you know why you're speaking? You're like, obviously, or like why I pulled you over, and you're like, obviously, I don't. You know, you would be shocked, like when we asked that question, how many people know exactly why the guy pulled over. But for me, I like it because I feel like it's an admission of guilt, and if you're going to admit to being guilty of something, then you are more likely to be sorry for it. I'm able to get voluntary compliance, and I'm more willing to give you a warning. So I'm like, do you know why I pulled you over? And you're like, yes, I was speeding. I'm so sorry. Like I'm late. I was jamming to some tunes. I've gotten that one where like I just got lost into some Kesha. You know, I got lost in some Kesha and I was just vibing, and I saw you and I was like, oh my god. And I'm like, you know what? Like we've all been there, right? Like we've all been vibing. Like, all right, I got you. You know what I mean? Like let's slow it down. Less vibes, right? Like, I'm probably more willing than the person that's like, no, what, you know, you can kind of deem somebody's compliance by asking them a simple question like that. And by the way, no cop really asks a question, and that isn't for a reason why he's asking it. And, the biggest thing that they're looking for is, are you compliant or are you not compliant? And, these are indicators that we need to figure out what we need to do. And, and it works. You know, people are like, well, that's not me. Well, sure, but we're not stupid. We could see. If I ask you if you have drugs in the car and all of a sudden your neck starts pulsing, well, I don't care what you say, yes or no. It doesn't bother. Like, I already know the answer.
Yeah.
If I ask you, do you have any weapons in the car, and you didn't give me a concealed carry, and you go like this, no.
Or
you know what I mean?
With your eyes.
They always look. Like if there's a gun, like it's a kid, if like, do you have any candy on you? And they look in their pocket, or they put their hand on their pocket and say no, like the candy's in the pocket that they touched. Like it's just an involuntary thing. So we ask those questions, and we're not even really listening to whether you say yes or no. We're just looking for indicators that you're not being truthful. I might say, do you have any weapons in the car? Yes, I do. Oh shit. Okay. And by the way, I live in an open carry state, North Carolina. So like everybody has a gun.
Oh, Texas is open carry too, but I carry like.
I love it when people are like, do you want to take me out of the car? My gun's right here. I'm like, are you going to shoot me with it? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, we're good. Just leave the gun right there. And I'll walk back to my car, because I know if they were going to shoot me, I would already have known, because they would have been sweating, like your friend, you know, I would have already have seen indicators.
The reason why they is like once they see my gun, they ask me to get out of the vehicle so they can handle it. I got a Staccato XC. That's a $5,000. Yeah, that's
Beautiful.
a $5,000 gun, and every cop that pulls me over, if I get pulled over, which I don't get pulled over that much, is can I look at it? I'm like,
can I hold this out?
Yeah.
I mean, I've literally pulled a guy over and be like, "Do you have any guns in the car?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've got a whole trunk full of rifles." And I was like, "Haha, you license and registration?" And he gave me his license. I went back and I came back and he was like, "Do you want to see the guns in the trunk?" And I was like, "Oh, you're fucking serious? Like I thought you were being an asshole. I thought you were being sarcastic." And literally, we walked back there and he's got fucking like 4 ARs back there, you know, of different signs. But he, I guess like does some like he works on grips for firearms, like he does like beating or whatever. So these were like other people's firearms that he was like, I don't know, he had some kind of a story of what he was doing, but we're so used to having the firearms. But yeah, I mean, getting pulled over by the cops, it's like it is a stressful situation. I'll pass by a state trooper and I'm always like, I could be in my cop car, pass by a state trooper and I'll be like, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, is he gonna pull out on me? What's up? You know? Like, oh shit, was I speeding? And I'm like in a cop car. You know?
I got rear-ended because of that one time. Guy I work with, there was a big traffic stop. Someone's mattress got onto the road, and
that's the worst.
A cop drove past him, and he was like, "Oh, he puckered up," and I was already stopped because the whole traffic was stopped, and he runs into me, and he's like, "What are we gonna do?" I was like, "Dude, I already know how much it's going to cost me because my dad already destroyed my bumper anyways. So I was going to buy another one. I knew how much it was going to cost. I was already going to put in the money for it. So just even the cop was like, are you upset or anything?" It's like, "No, we work together. I'm going to scream at him about work. So we're good. I'm going to make him feel like a horrible human being. But other than that, we're not even going to do insurance. I already had to fix it anyways." He's like, cop was like, "Oh, okay. Oh,
right.
We got this stuff to deal with. So later. Okay."
Yeah. Man. Oh, we've seen it all. I mean, that's why I think a lot of people don't understand is that like cops take 15 calls a day. Like if you're a big city cop, I guess. I mean, my experience, like I would take between 15 and 20 calls a day. And like none of these calls are people having a great day. They just want to see how they're doing. Like this is somebody who's had the worst moment. Now their worst moment differs from the other person. Like their worst moment might be that they lost their dog, but probably not, you know, like it's domestic violence. They're scared of somebody. I mean, 15 a day, 15. And out of those 15, 3 are going to be probably critical or traumatic. 3 of them might be stabbed. 3 of them or shot. One of them is going to be shot or stabbed, raped, kid diddled. You know what I mean? Like you're going to get one of those out of those 15 every day. So I like it when people are like, "Oh, this cop doesn't know what he's doing." Like, dude, a cop that's been on the street for 2 years has seen more shit in 2 years than most military veterans will see in their entire life, to include the combat veterans. And I think that's a big misconception too. It's like, especially if you're a big city cop, do you know how many times a night your gun will come out of the holster every single day of your career?
I think they like the average is probably 30-year career. Probably never.
No, it's every day.
Oh, yeah, it's depending on where you're at too.
Every day your gun, if you're a big city cop, every day, if you're working a beat, probably every day your gun comes out of the holster at least once, whether it's to clear, I mean, mainly it's clearing a abandoned house. You know, like we'll get to a house that has a house alarm and the lady's like, "I don't know if they're still in there or not." So me and you, Dave, like, all right, well, I can't do a report on this house that's been broken into if we don't know if somebody's still in there or not. So we pull our guns out, and we clear the whole house, and 100 times there'll be nobody in there. And then one time you'll open up that closet and you'll see some skin in the clothes hamper. True story, by the way. And you'll kick the clothes hamper and somebody will explode out of the laundry. And you're just like, "What the fuck?" And next thing you know, like you've got some 14-year-old kid at gunpoint that just scared the shit out of you, and you're just thankful to God you didn't kill him. That's why we keep our finger off the trigger. But it could be like, you're serving a warrant, you're gonna pull your gun out. You get to a traffic stop and the guy's being herky jerky, like you're gonna pull your gun out. So it's like we're used to having our weapons out and putting our weapons, but we also like we're not gonna have the drop on us. And people are like, well, you got your hand on your gun. Well, I mean, like, one, it's a very convenient place to put your hand.
It really is. I had my hand, like when I was working corrections, we had like just the pepper spray.
Yeah.
My hand was always on it.
Always on it.
And someone was telling one of the inmates were like, are you about to? I was like, oh yeah, it's a spot. I mean, I rest my arm on it.
Yeah.
It's there.
I mean, I've really had to train myself to steeple my fingers, and that's what our department does. So we taught everybody with steeple fingers. Yeah. And the reason why, and by the way, if you're just an audio listener, if you just take your fingertips and place them together, like here are the people, here's the steeple, and we see our fingers. And that way, because if somebody's going to hit you, you're here, but also you can draw really fast, you're in the bubble. And that, like, one, it shows empathy, and it doesn't like, people just think you're just like, oh yeah, that's very interesting, but they don't understand that like you're ready to punch them or fucking draw your gun. It looks very chill.
We call it the interview stance.
Yeah, the interview stance versus like me standing there with my hands on my hips, my hand on my gun, because so many people were like, oh, why is his hand on his gun? Why is his hand on his gun? Oh, why are you gonna shoot me? And you're like, no, I'm not scared of you at all, actually. Like, this is just where I fucking put my hands. So I really had to train myself to do the steepled fingers bullshit so that I wouldn't just like rest my arm on my gun, because so many people just assume that you want to shoot them as a cop. And, that's the other thing is like, I probably pull my gun out nearly every shift, or at least 90% of my shifts. My gun came out. Guess how many people I shot while on duty? 0. You know what I mean? If I wanted to shoot somebody, I would have shot them. Like, and then when you read the book, you'll see many instances where my gun's on somebody's face or pointed in somebody's direction. And like, literally there's one point in the book where I get in trouble for not shooting somebody, because while they're fighting for a gun, yelling for me to shoot the guy, I just run up and start punching him in the face as hard as I can, like 10 fucking times until he's out. It's in the book. And they were like, dude, you gambled with your fist. Like, what if you would have got that gun out and shot your partner? But he had a stolen gun on him. And I'm like, am I getting in trouble because I didn't shoot somebody? Like, this is crazy. So like that whole myth of like cops are just out there to shoot somebody, like, it's just not true. Like, you've got 30 cops in one district on one shift, just in one district of the city. So you times that by 4 or 5, however many districts, 6 districts, you got all those cops. They're all probably pulling their guns out at least once or twice in the night, whether it's to clear, like I said, a homeless building or whatever. And they're not shooting people every night. You know what I mean? You have like 1 shooting a year in a police department, 3 shootings a year. So it's like, if it's a big myth. Like, cops just want to go out and shoot somebody. It's like, actually, no, we don't, because the chances of us going to prison for shooting somebody are extremely high, a lot higher than you are going to get away with it.
Yeah, because you have to have legal precedents to actually do that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that has to go through your mind. I mean, even I've talked to so many people that's actually been in gunfights, and they honestly couldn't tell you pinpoint what at one point in time that they viewed that. I mean, even drawing the gun, pointing at the person, the guy reaches for the gun, and even that, you see that. I mean, even seeing like cop videos of them doing it, it has to click.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it takes like 2 to 3 seconds, and that 2 to 3 seconds is basically life and death.
Yeah, and I mean the amount of paperwork, and it's like, one of the guys in my book, he shoots somebody and kills them, and he ends up having to move. Was never able to return to the church that he grew up in, or his wife grew up in. Had to switch CrossFit gyms because even Deion Sanders wore the name of the deceased person on his tie, on his Hall of Fame jacket when he got inducted into the Hall of Fame. And this guy was a complete scumbag, by the way, and pulled a gun on my buddy, and my buddy shot him in the gun and then shot him in the chest. And still the media painted my friend out to be a monster. And of course my friend was cleared from it, but the media moves on and they never hear the cleared part. So all they heard was that 30%, what was put out at the very, first 30 hours or whatever. And that's what they stick with. And so they were protesting at the church, they were protesting at the gym. It was really ugly. And so, his family had to buy a house through other means, like have somebody else buy a house for them with their names on it and all this other stuff so they couldn't be tracked down, all because Deion Sanders wanted to, run his mouth about something he didn't know anything about. Like if he knew who this guy was, Akil Dinkins, you can look him up. If he knew who that was, like he wouldn't be representing him on his tie on his Hall of Fame jacket. You'd be like, wow, this guy had like 30 something charges like in 11 months, like everywhere from like beating up women to, gang sales and all. I mean, this guy was just a bad person.
Well, that's another thing that I like to emphasize on about police departments is a lot of people don't understand. You go through your job and you do your job for that day, 8 hours, 12 hours, whatever you do, 16 hours. It could be like
12 is the minimum.
Yeah. But guess what you do after you get off? You still have to walk the same streets that you police.
Yeah.
And in civilian clothes.
Yep.
And you have to go to the grocery store and you could see like the person that you just put into jail.
Yep.
And you're walking down the aisle and guess who's there? That same guy. And it could be like you pulled him over for a traffic stop and he was just speeding, or it could be like he just murdered a whole entire family.
Yeah. Yeah. So many people have never seen a drive-by shooting. It's only something they see in the movies or they heard about, that's a great point. And is like, well, I've seen drive-by shootings, lots of them. I've investigated tons of drive-by shootings. I've sat with people in their last breath because of drive-by shootings. I've been there at the crime scene of people who died that had nothing to do with the drive-by shooting. They just happened to be walking down the street and they caught one. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've sat there while they died. Some of those stories are in the book. And so I know that drive-by shootings are real. Well, if you know they're real and you're out fucking with the people who are doing the drive-by shootings, yeah, your life is different from everybody else's. I have to do things differently than everybody else. I have to leave my house differently than everybody else. I have to treat people differently than everybody else because there's a real chance and a real possibility that somebody at some point is going to drive by my house. There's a Durham police officer, the city right over, and they came and Molotov cocktailed the house, and his house burnt to the freaking ground. He was on a cruise, thank God. But like, it's real. Like that shit really does happen. They don't put it out in the media because they don't want people to copycat that stuff, but it happens quite a bit. There are many scenarios, even that I worked. I even did it. I even pulled security on other cops' homes because of real life threats. Matter of fact, we had one where the guy was threatening to shoot up another cop's house, and they ended up, I sat in front of that house, pulled my shift. I think we all did like a 3-hour shift, 24 hours a day. Somebody's got to be sitting in front of this cop's house or on the street. And one of the cops on that rotation had to kill the guy because the guy actually showed up to kill the cop. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's a real threat. And I think some people are like, it's almost like they think that cops are doing things for theatrics when, like, not to, I'm a military veteran too, but military veterans seem to always like be really difficult on cops and stuff. And it's like, wait a minute, you're the one that's going through the theatrics. You're the one wearing the shirt that's like says you're a door kicker, but like I kicked in like 3 doors yesterday. Like I served 3 violent felony warrants yesterday. But you're the one that's talking shit about me. When's the last time you kicked in a door? Like GWAT 2005? What's up? Like, we're still doing it, motherfucker. Like you're the one that's pretending. Like you go to the range and shoot. Like I go to the range, and if I don't shoot correctly, if I don't 3-gun shoot, 1, my friends are in danger. But 2, I lose my fucking job. Like there's a lot when you're qualifying as a cop. Like that's stressful.
Yeah.
You're doing your night qual and you shoot a no-shoot target. There's $70,000 a year out the window, or, whatever, or you get moved off your shift or whatever, it's not as easy as some people would like to think it is.
Yeah. And in some of the aspects though, because my dad, he works for the sheriff's department, but he only did he was a jailer, and he would get talked to about people that were inmates in the jail. And because he just I don't want to say just did his job, but he wasn't an asshole. You
Yeah.
know, when humans make mistakes, instead of going out, because this is how I was always taught. When the person makes a mistake, either he learns from it and you never see him again, and you hope you don't, or he's a repeat customer. But there's a lot of the not inmates, just the people that were in the jail. They come out of it and they are thanking my dad for treating them like a human being. And hey, you improved my life because I just realized that, hey, I can do better with my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I used to always tell my rookies, when I was a field training officer, I said, like, listen, we start every call, no matter what somebody looks like or what you think the story is or what the 911 call is. We start every call with an open hand of kindness. And it's up to that person in front of you to close that open hand into an iron fist. But we're always going to show up with the open hand of kindness. And if they want to be assholes and they want to fold those fists down, well, that's okay. We'll do that. But we're always going to start with an open hand of kindness. And that's kind of, because everybody does have a story and everybody is human. And usually people do things for a reason. It's like people don't just wake up wanting to kill their girlfriend. Like normally, like once you start to talk to them, like I'm not saying that they're justified in killing their girlfriend, but when you hear the whole story, you're kind of like, I mean, I'm mentally stronger than that, but like I can see where a man can only take so much. Once you hear the whole story, you're like, fuck, like that sounds terrible. Like, I hate to say it because that sounds so bad, but I've been in the car with murderers, with people who've actually murdered somebody. I've put handcuffs on murderers, and I've had conversations with murderers, and some of the people who have stabbed people or shot somebody. It's like, not that it's a good excuse, but like there's always a why. You know what I mean? There's always a reason that brother. They didn't just wake up and say, you know what, I want to fucking kill my girlfriend today.
Yeah. And a lot of people just don't understand that. They only see what the news media gets after, which luckily that's going downhill a little bit. I mean, they lose so much credibility. I mean, even just this weekend where that one guy shot up the Manhattan building.
Yeah.
He lost credit. The news media lost credibility because they called him white. And rightfully so. And I'm not placating of this race does this or this race does that. I'm placating that the people that were supposed to report on that news article or that news on that news, that they got it wrong and they just called it a white guy, and it was someone of other ethnicity.
Is anybody still watching mainstream media? Because like they're wrong all the time. Like that's what I don't understand. It's like, why aren't you like independent journalists on podcasts are better than any news broadcast. They're better than CNN. They're better than Fox News. I mean, like the media was wrong with Breonna Taylor. There was no knock warrant search. That didn't exist. There was no knock warrant for that. They knocked on that warrant and they weren't even a SWAT team. She was not asleep in her bed. She was wide awake. And by the way, she was cheating on her boyfriend with a guy who had snuck in the back door, even though that there were detectives watching the house. They weren't even supposed to know. And then B, she wasn't an EMT. She was an emergency medical room technician where she like mops blood off the floors. And I'm not taking away from that job, but the media made it out that she was an EMT. Like she was in the back of an ambulance. She had no medical, like real certification. Plus she got fired from that job. And they got $14,000 out of her house, which was part of the investigation of her dealing drugs with her boyfriend, who, by the way, Breonna rented 2 cars that were involved in drive-by shootings. One was involved in a homicide, which was they suspected was by her boyfriend. And her boyfriend is the one that they did the no-knock warrant on their house, caught him and the 3 guys and got all the guns. No-knock warrant, didn't shoot anyone, by the way, and then went after Breonna Taylor with a knocked warrant with detectives and not the SWAT team, and then they get shot. So it was actually the no-knock warrant that saved lives that night, and it was the knocked warrant that ended lives. Michael Brown, there was never a hands up, don't shoot. And Michael Brown was a heinous person to his community. And so that whole thing ruined lives. We see the Kyle Rittenhouse story. I mean, how many times does the news have to be overtly, blatantly wrong? And like, we're still shocked by it. Like, we're still shocked. Like, we all saw the picture clear as day that was a black man that entered that building. And by the way, he went to the 33rd floor. of a building that's owned by BlackRock, which is like the same type of business, and I think connected in some way to Blackstone. You can Google it. I don't remember, but like he went after a bank on the 33rd floor, which is way like all of those things like add up more than him going after the NFL.
Yeah, it was Blackstone, and coming out on the most of that story is it was basically fact that the whole reason why they call it like a football player stuff and everything was, hey, he was trying to get to the NFL. I was like, are you sure? Because you can look at the listing. It's like, if you're going in, you're already. I mean, if he did it right, he would already gone up there. If they could show video of him already like pre going to the site to go to the position that he was at. Look up what floor he has to go to. Go to that floor and do whatever. I mean, it would be the way they said it was like, oh, he pressed the wrong button. He went to the wrong floor, but he just decided, you know what? Let's do this. It's just so many plot holes in the whole story that they're actually trying to put out there. And I'm super surprised that they didn't come out with anything to the point to where we have a lot of anti-gun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, well, like it seems like they had like an anti-CTE head injury football kind of like that's where it was like trying to go. Like, oh, football's too toxic. We got to like dumb it down. Which remember they tried to do that like 5 years ago or 6 years ago when Trump was in office. Remember, like they were really going hard after football. Now Trump's back in office and they're trying to go after football again. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I listen. I don't buy any of that shit. I like to put things in percents. Like I'm not going to say there's a 0% chance that anything the media is saying in that one is real, but like I think there's like a 40% chance it had something to do with the NFL, and I think there's like a 60% chance that it had something more to do with BlackRock or Blackstone. Which, by the way, Blackstone and BlackRock are the same style company. It's just one's investment.
They are. I think one. It's like real estate.
Yeah, like one's real estate and one's other type of, but they're both investments, right?
Yeah, they're both.
And a guy goes to third floor, and this is all stemming out of Vegas, which is where all the crazy weird stories start, like come from. Like it always starts in Vegas for some reason. Vegas shooter, this guy, like it always. There's always like these weird ties, but yeah, I mean, if you're still listening to anything the media puts out, in the first 72 hours, you're a fool. You're an idiot. Like, give it 72 hours and then see what the media puts out and then only believe half of that.
Yeah. And do your own research at the same time. Now, going up on news with being an ex-police officer, like the stuff that's coming out right now with Washington, D.C. Do you think everything should be federalized in Washington, D.C.?
Well, I think that was the plan for the Democrats the whole time was federalized policing. To be honest with you,
saying that
I know what you're talking about, but I just like to foreshadow it. They let the crime get so bad in L.A. and a lot of people don't know this, but like Nancy Pelosi had already federalized policing in several different ways in Los Angeles for their drug pandemic, which obviously makes the federal government, you get better federal contracts, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, they allow this crime to happen because they want federal, the takeovers. But, then now you have it on a different scale where you have Washington, DC Metro and everything like that whole police department, because it already like Capitol Police is already federal.
Yeah.
The Capitol Police. And so, but like the administrations there in like Baltimore and Washington, D.C. and all those surrounding areas have allowed crime to undermine our government. Like, remember when they tried to get the National Guard for the Trump administration, January 6th? They said no. They asked for additional officers, which they get all the time. For some reason, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer said, no, we're not going to give it. There's 5 different memos that say no. And now to thwart and undermine the election, now the left is allowing rampant crime, unchecked crime. I mean, we were just talking about rental cars. It's so hard to buy a rental car. You know why? Because they won't let you charge anybody with a stolen car. It's unauthorized use of motor vehicle, and they're like dropping those charges if the person turns them back ever. You know what I mean? So it's like these people rent the car, they don't turn the car in, they get charged with unauthorized use, but then they turn the car back in a month later, or they abandon the car, and the judges give them like no sentence. So there's like really no accountability of stealing these cars, so nobody's getting in trouble for it, because they can say, oh, well, somebody stole it from me when I was renting it, and they've manipulated the system. So now it's hard as fuck in a lot of places to get a rental car, because of this rental car problem. And it's that soft on crime mentality. And it's to thwart the government, and it is to overall make things federal policing. If we can make these things as bad as we can make them, then we have no choice but to make it federal. And that's what's going on right now. And I'm totally against it. I mean, I'm against the federal funding for DUI units and all that stuff, because now these departments have to go get more DUIs, and there's no incentive to, our DUI squad was working their ass off, getting DUIs off the street, and we became one of the hardest cities on DUIs. So guess what people started doing? Not driving drunk. Well, now it's harder to find drunk drivers. Well, now the cops aren't doing their job because they're not getting drunk drivers. So now the cops have got to get crafty to try to find drunk drivers. And then that could be deemed unfair by the public. But if they don't produce numbers, then they lose the funding, and they lose all their vehicles and all this stuff. And then they lose their job, or they don't get promoted because they're not doing a good job. So now they got to sit and watch you leave the brewery to try to catch you. Now they've got to start doing these things that are like, instead of just saying, hey, don't leave, you're drunk. Now it's like they kind of want you to leave because they need to get that number for the night. So like, I don't believe in any of that federal bullshit. It's like, if your department can't afford a DUI squad, well, tough shit.
Yeah.
That's,
that whole thing happened to me when I was in the Air Force, and I was stationed at Abilene, Texas. It was basically, they told us, don't go out. And if you're going to a bar, have a couple of drinks. We're not telling you not to drink or anything, but be careful out there, because the cops, I tripped coming out of the bar. All I was doing was drinking water throughout the whole night, and they stopped me because they were like, oh, you're drunk. And they emphasized, if it wasn't for the fact that, I was like, I'll take a breathalyzer test right now. And they were like, oh, and they breathalyzed me. It's like, this is 0. I was like, yeah, it's 0, because I told you I wasn't drinking. I tripped on the stump. That was Abilene for you.
So, but and then the caveat to that, it's like, well, on a Friday night, right? We look at the number one problem we have in the city. And these aren't real stats, but let me just give you an example of what it would look like for us. And we do this it's called Cops on Dots. I'm not going to get into it on your podcast, but it's like a scientific way of looking at crime mapping. But like, it's Friday night, and your district, let's just say your district is downtown Raleigh, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on there is Glenwood Avenue, right? And so we look at Friday night, the Cops on Dots, what is the number one crime on a Friday night? Like violent crimes, and they have a whole list of things, right? And so you see that like there were 10 car break-ins on Glenwood on Friday night. Well, average Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you have 1 car break-in. Mm-hmm. But on Friday night in downtown, we have 6, right? We have 18 violent crimes on Friday nights. When Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we have 3 on Glenwood. And then we have 3 fatalities for the month that all occurred on a Friday night or a Saturday morning. The average for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for the month is 0. Well, there you go. The number one killer on Friday night are drunk drivers. I want to be the cop that saves a life. Yeah. I'm going to find the guy that was going to kill somebody, because I want that number to be 0. And if every cop sees the same thing that I'm seeing, every cop's mentality is, not on my watch. I'm going to get the guy that was going to make that one of those 3 die, that ruined a mother, a father, a grandfather. Because we see this stuff. It's not like the movies. They don't get like some kind of lieutenant colonel to go and tell the family that their loved one's dead. Like, sometimes it's just the street cop in the beat that goes and says, so we've all been there. We've all done it. And it's a terrible thing to have to do. So like, our mindset on Friday night is, anybody that's fucking drunk, I'm going to be the guy that's going to get them. And I think that's also like a misconception. With the public is that they don't understand that is like that, we're doing it. Sometimes you're doing the wrong thing for the right reasons. But sometimes it goes too far. But obviously with our DUI squad, it wasn't on Glenwood. It was everywhere in the city, because they're trying to create this federal funding. But, it's like put all your resources on Friday night if that's where people are dying. So that's what we do cops on dots. If you see a cop getting out of his car and talking to somebody at 2:00 in the afternoon in the neighborhood, that cop didn't just wake up and decide he wanted to harass people at 2:00 in the afternoon. It's because there's 4 break-ins between the hours of 10 and 2 in this neighborhood when the average is 0 every other time. So now I have between 10 and 2 on Thursday to catch whoever's breaking into these cars on Thursday. And where do you start? Well, you start by getting out of your car and talking to people.
Yeah. Now, before I'll let you go on this, I have one thing that was it's placating the interwebs right now, and it's how we actually started talking. What are your thoughts on the heinous crime at the WNBA with the yellow-green dildos?
The ones that they're throwing onto the court.
Yeah.
And those dildos aren't cheap, man. They're like $60 a pop for dildos.
Yeah.
Like how many have they thrown? Like 4?
Yeah, 4 so far. One, I don't even want to know where they're hiding them.
Well, they're spending more money on dildos in the WNBA than they are on merch. So somebody has made more money on dildos than they have. Like WNBA t-shirts like $10?
Probably, yeah.
Dildos
Probably.
like $60. Yeah. So and they've sold they've made a couple $100 on dildos, and they've made they would have to sell 6 WNBA shirts for one of those dildos, and they ain't selling 6 WNBA t-shirts at one of those beasts.
I don't know why they, this thought just came to me. I don't know why they're pushing for it. I mean, if it's a women's sport, dildos and everything, I mean, placate it. Fucking own that shit.
Yeah. And if they're all lesbians, why do they want a male penis? Have you ever wondered that?
Yeah.
If you're really gay, why do you need a dildo that looks like a wiener?
Yeah.
But I've also always wondered, if you're gay, don't you know that women have buttholes too?
Yeah, that's true too.
If you're attracted to the beehole, but I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get too far into it, but I do think it's funny that lesbians penis men shaped pleasure toys. It's always just weird for me. But I'm weird because I'm straight. So my brain it can't process that side of things. It doesn't mean I'm against any of all that stuff or whatever. It's just my brain.
Yeah. You're just curious.
I'm just curious.
Why are you still doing that? Here's another fun fact, and this is kind of weird. Okay. Why are all the dildos circumcised?
I mean, I think circumcised penises are prettier, and I'm not even gay, but if I'm gonna watch, if I need to see a penis, I feel like I want my penis to be.
You don't want to have a hoodie.
I don't want to see a Sith Lord.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to see a Jedi Knight.
Okay, I get that.
I don't want to see the hood.
I asked the lesbian that. She's like, that's a weird thing to think, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so weird.
Great. Now they're gonna start making uncircumcised dildos, where you have to peel the skin back. Now, I'm not anti non-circumcision. I'm not even I really just don't care. But I'm it's curious. I'm just a curious guy. So
yeah,
I'm glad I got circumcised because I have been told that I have a pretty penis. I've never had a girl be like, "Damn, you got a big dick," or you know what I mean? Oh, that's a thick penis. But I have gotten, you have a pretty penis. So if I was uncircumcised, I wouldn't even have that. My penis wouldn't be special at all. Yeah. Because it's not big. It's not thick. I would just, it would just be a penis. But at least I have a pretty penis.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. On that note, I love how the end of the show it goes like that. Pick up his book. Show the book, Tansey.
You want me to show can I show the audiobook trailer? Do we have time?
Yeah, go ahead. Present it and we'll do the audiobook trailer.
I'm en route. 30 seconds out.
The craziest cop story ever told.
Oh, shit. Did you just tase me in the pussy?
Action-packed.
Bam! It completely crushes the driver's side of the cab. If he isn't dead from the crash, he sure as shit is now.
Seductive.
Come here, big boy. You gonna arrest me?
Absolutely hilarious.
She is twerking in my direction. Oh my god, she's shitting on me.
Raw and real.
Raleigh, we need EMS. It looks like our suspect has been shot in the head.
Unhinged.
Man, what am I supposed to do with some motherfucker's leg coming through my ceiling?
Do you want some pizza?
He fucking fought in my goddamn olives.
Redemption.
I take a deep breath and assess the situation. Well, it could be worse. At least I'm not the guy who had a dick on his face.
Narrated by author Eric Tansey. Directed by Grammy nominee Travis Hahn. Engineered by Telly Award winner Noel White. Big Latin, the audiobook.
I love that commercial. Anyways, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Pick up his book and listen to the audio. But love you guys. Later.